Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome back to another edition of Incarceration to Incorporation. I am so glad that we are here once again to be able to share with you the wonderful stories of success, changing the very narrative of what's going on in our society. I am Julius Campbell. My co-host Marie Jones, she's not with us today, but we're going to give a shout out to her along with AB, the brainchild of Incarceration to Incorporation. He's not here with us either. And also my main man, Julius Hall, who has given us the very platform that we are able to change the narrative about what's going on. So again, thank you. I want to give you an opportunity to come on in with us and hit that share button. Why? Because what we are doing, we are changing the very narrative. We are changing the stories that people can realize we may have started out wrong, but returning citizens are finishing strong. So without further ado, I got some people that's going to be on with me today. That's going to be a blessing to us. I got Dakota, he's on, Dakota Graham, and I got Patricia also on with us today. I know that they have a story that they're going to share with us. They're going to allow us to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, who they are, why, so that you can know we are changing the narrative over here. So I want to give them a chance just to introduce themselves. So we're going to start with Patricia first. Patricia, take your time and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Good evening. Thank you, Julius, for having me. My name is Patricia Bennett. I am the CEO of Empowering Men and Women on the Move for Reentry. We have been around for 10 years. November 1st of 2021, we made 10 years. So we're a supportive housing program for men that are being released from the penal system.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dakota.
Hey, thank you, Julius. My name is Dakota Graham, and I'm a new-time business owner. Just started a painting company, and I am involved in the recovery community out here in Savannah. And my goal is, anyone returning or not returning to, so everything for me starts with sobriety. And my successful return had a lot to do with my sobriety. So I'm involved in the AA community and 12-step programs and helping returning citizens come in contact with people such as Patricia and you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is your opportunity. The platform will be yours. I'm simply your moderator, and I will help you along the way as you share your story. Let me help you to understand, first of all, what I want you to share, because our listeners are listening for these three key words. Number one, returning citizens. Number two, relatives of returning citizens. And number three, resources for returning citizens. What do you have in those areas? Tell us. I'm going to start with you first, Dakota. Um, Tell us a little bit about how much time you did. You don't have to tell us what you did, but about how much time you did, and transition us, if you will, to where you are now. Was your transition or your reentry into society a smooth one or a difficult one, and why?
Understood. So my name is Dakota, and my relation to reentry is I did 7 years in the Georgia Department of Corrections. Um, I came home, and as you know, resources didn't seem as readily available as they do now. So when I came home, I didn't know about resources. My reentry for the first 6 to 8 months was extremely difficult. I floundered around, and I didn't really know what to do. And I reverted back to old ways, habits, and behaviors. And I came in contact with a man named Don Newman, and he introduced me to a lot of people and um, resources such as 63rd Street in Savannah, Georgia. It's called Recovery Place, and they're a state-ran facility who offers, men's residential, which is like residential inpatient treatment for alcohol and drug addiction. They offer outpatient programs paid for by the state for the same thing, drug, alcohol treatment programs. They offer counseling for mental health disorder, and they have lots of resources to do with the mental health and addiction field. So I came home, spent a little time floundering, and then got linked up with them, and I was introduced to several people which helped me with housing. These were not like facilities, these were private individuals, helped me with housing. And about a year and a half ago, which would make it about a year and a half after my transition, my reentry into into society, I was able to get a business license and start a business because I found out how easy it was, because I didn't realize how easy these things are to do. I thought, a man with a business has got to be $1 million man to have a business. And I learned quickly that that's not true. You just gotta do the paperwork. And so I applied for a business license and got insured. And now I employ no more than 3 or 4 guys at a time, but I'm able to employ 3 or 4 guys at a time. And they're all reentering citizens. I have a friend who came home today, just did 10 years, and he's going to be working with us starting Monday. So I have the ability to help these guys and give them, real jobs, to have real paychecks, to have their substance, so they can create something with their lives. Because I know that coming home and having, you can't make macaroni and cheese without cheese. So there's just it's hard to make a life without, having something in it that seems to be beneficial and positive. So I work with a lot of guys in the recovery community. And my main focus is guys that are coming home that do have addiction and substance abuse issues. Is without treating those issues, reoffending is really likely. But treating these issues that cause the problems to begin with, I have found that people aren't the same people. And that these are just mental health disorders that just are being untreated and treated, have a chance at a normal life in society, which is what I've been given.
Okay. Now I want you to hold off on for just a minute, because I see you, Jessica. But I want to remember, as we come back to you, 2 areas. So this will give you a moment to reflect and think. Number one, I want you to speak to our audience about the business aspect, because there are some returning citizens that are finding it difficult to succeed. But when they hear your story of the tenacity that you have, then I believe that will encourage them. And in OAA Savannah, and what that is that's Offender Alumni Association. Marie Jones and myself, we help facilitate this organization for returning citizens. we like to encourage, to empower, and to edify. So I want you to begin to speak to the people and let them know that they too can make it, and with an encouragement. But hold on for a moment as we allow Patricia to come on and share a little bit about what she's doing in resources. But Patricia, before you share, you didn't give Jessica an opportunity to introduce herself. So if you can hear me, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, my name is author Jessica Nicole. I'm a board member of Ms. Bennett's Empowering Men and Women on the Move, and I myself am a returning citizen. I'm author. My book is titled Triumphant: One Woman's Journey from Prison to Purpose. And I was facing a 10-year federal prison sentence, but I was sentenced to 26 months for a conspiracy charge. So I know, just like Dakota, coming home, I had a hard time finding a job. I was employed before I left. I worked for a federal corporation, federal company. And I'm also, now that I'm home, I'm employed with a federal corporate company. And I still have, my background is not expunged or anything, but it's just with a lot of tenacity. And by the grace of God, I'm employed. And like I said, I'm an author. I'm a reentry activist. And I sit on Empowering Men and Women on the Move board.
Wow. And was your transition difficult or smooth?
It was difficult.
Why?
Well, it's like I didn't have a problem with housing. I had a problem with jobs. So finding employment was very difficult. And like I said, I had a great job before incarceration, but after incarceration, I had to start out working at a warehouse. And which I don't knock that. So I'm not knocking people that that work at warehouses. But I had my bachelor's before my associate's degree, and I was in the middle of receiving my bachelor's when I went away, when I was incarcerated. But since returning home, I finished my bachelor's and I have my master's. But it took lots of hard work, focus, and determination.
And who helped you to get, when you was transitioning out, were you on your own, or did you have an accountability partner or a support group? Tell us a little bit about that.
I was on my own. I attended several support groups, but they all had this pamphlet of jobs, pamphlet of information, and every place that I went to just handed out that information and said that would help, but it didn't help. In the end, I was left on my own, and that's why I support Ms. Bennett's program, because she sees her guys all the way through. She doesn't just provide a bed. She has a job resource, and they are guaranteed to get a job there. She takes them if they can get any public assistance. She sees them all the way through from A to Z.
All right. All right. So that brings me to you, Patricia. Tell us a little bit about why you started, what you started, and the difficulty, but even more so, as a result of what you started, success with other men.
So, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Jessica Roberts. Why I started this program, and I'm not going to, it was actually a woman's program. It was never a men's program. And I was volunteering at a agency, and a woman came across my desk, and, we were starting to talk, and she said, I'm homeless because I have a felony conviction. So with me and my driving self, I decided I wanted to open housing for women. And that's how I started, with 4 homeless women. Then I went into the penal system, the TC at Metro, and I started housing women from there. But what happened, Julius, I never had services for them. I started out with a bed and a meal. So once we decided to dismantle that program, the women's program, and we turned it into a men's program, that's when I went out in the community. Because you cannot give somebody a bed and a meal and expect them to thrive in the community. It has to be resource services in there. They're coming home from mental health, substance addiction, trauma, when they get off that Greyhound bus, they're looking for someone to assist them. So we decided to put services in that program. So our services range from life coach, case management, mentoring, food stamps. Employment is our biggest. It's not a challenge anymore because we don't make it a challenge. We did an MOU with a temp service, temp to perm. So most of the guys, 60%, almost 70% are permanent in their position that they will put in. It is challenging with the men, but it was more challenging with the women. So I would do men every day. I don't have any problem with the women, but they do come with a lot of challenge. They have the children. How do you leave your children behind and say you have to go into a program? You just left them for 10 years. So now we have the men. But now the men are coming home 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. They're doing long term. How do you get them back on track? Right. You have to walk beside them, not in front, not in the back, beside them. And you have to be there, because what I heard today from one of my guys is that he doesn't trust people. Mm-hmm. And he did 7 years. He said he has a problem of trusting people. And so we have to get that back on track. And I know somebody else might have did something, but we are here to bring you up to be an asset in the community, because the community wears blinders that every time they hear something on TV, that's that reentry. That's why I don't want them in that neighborhood, because something happened. And that is true. That is true, because you're seeing it, but you're not seeing the positive, that people are getting jobs. They are living in your neighborhood. They are thriving. They are educating themselves. They are doing career apprenticeship. So there's so many things to reentry. Yes, they are disfranchised people, but look how they're thriving in that neighborhood you said you don't want them in. And so that's my challenge right now, Julius, is to get people in the community to understand what you see on TV is not all the facts. It's not all the facts. Just because they did long term, we can't go by what the crime is, Julius, because if we go by the crime every day, I think I wouldn't have anybody in that house. I can only go by what this man is doing today. I can't go back in the past. You did your time. Now let's stay in the present so we can be an asset to the community. Because when one does something, they all did something. Does that make sense? And that's why I tell them that, we're in an apartment complex. If one person do something, you all did it. Right. So we have to be careful how we carry ourselves out in society, because they are looking and they are watching the news every day. And for 30 minutes, it's about somebody who had a felony conviction that shot somebody, had a handgun. But they're not talking about the ones that are making it, stayed out of prison, have a family, got a car. The challenge is the housing component. You can stay in our program for a year. I got people in there going on 2 years because of the felony conviction. And that's the challenge with our program. But, there's always a solution somewhere. So I'll just hold that.
And before you give that solution, because and I want you to speak, Dakota, because Ferrante Frazier says, bless you for what you're doing right now. But what I want to ask all three of you, and so you can begin to think while one another is talking, but I'll start with you first, Dakota, is before you can make it to success, you must first deal with the difficulty. And I want to know how you dealt with the difficulty. That's for you, Patricia, you, Dakota, and also you, Jessica. But start with you, Dakota. How did you deal with the difficulty? If it was two coming out and there was no one there, and then beginning your business, and it was difficult, or trying to get a job, tell us, how did you deal with your difficulty?
Okay, thank you. So I was listening to Jessica talk, and it's like a spitting image of what I've gone through. So the same thing applied to me. I did have housing issues, but I had job issues, right? Right. And it's, that box is on every application you fill out. I don't care if you're flipping burgers in a McDonald's line. they want to know if you're a convicted felon. And then when they find out you have a violent crime, they're very tempted to not even consider you. So I struggled for a long time. I was jobless for almost a year, and I was actually given an opportunity by a guy in recovery who didn't know anything about reentry, didn't know anything about, ex-felons or convicts or whatever you want to refer to them as, returning citizens, right? He only knew that I wanted to get and stay sober and that I wanted my life to be different. And so this guy gave me an opportunity. He'd never been through anything like that. He was an older gentleman who he owned a construction business and said, here's what I'll do for you. I'll help you out. And so I was given an extended hand because I didn't, in Savannah, we don't have as many resources as Patricia's able to offer. And when I came home, it felt like there were no resources. And it was probably my ignorance to him. I didn't know about the resources. It's not something that is broadcasted across Department of Corrections about, we're very unaware of what's going on in there. And we get that bus ticket that somebody talked about. We get off on the Greyhound, and it's where do I go from here? And I got off the Greyhound and walked to a homeless shelter across the street. And I stayed there and got involved at 63rd Street, which is what we call Recovery Place Community Services here in Savannah. And it is an addiction and alcohol treatment center. And from there, everything just, spiraled upward. It was just upward trajectory. And, that's how it started. It started out with just a man I didn't know and didn't know me, giving me an opportunity. That's how it started.
Awesome. And what about you, Jessica? How did you handle the difficulty?
Well, I think it goes back to my foundation, how my mother and father raised me. Like I mentioned before, prior to incarceration, I worked, and I had an education. So my mother and father raised me to never give up. And I had a daughter. So my focus was on, I have to get my daughter back. So I have to have a job. So working at the warehouse, and I just adopted the mindset that I'm just going to have to rebuild my life. So having the positive attitude and the right mindset, and you're going to have to surround yourself around positive people that want to see you grow, people that want to see you be different. You can't come from incarceration, hang around the same people that you hung around prior to incarceration. You have to adopt a whole new mindset. So just that my foundation, my upbringing, I leaned on that. And like I said, I have a relationship with God first and foremost. So that's how I got through, because he helped me, because just the way I was, just the way I became incarcerated. If you read my book, it was tragic, but I won't go into that. But just the foundation and having the determination and never give up attitude.
And what about you, Patricia? How did you make it through the difficulties?
I had to get a mentor. I had to get a mentor for my personal self, and I had to get a mentor to walk me with the gentlemen that were coming in our program. I didn't know the trauma that was coming through my door. I didn't know what the prison, I want to say the damage that was done, and how do we put that man back together? Or how do we have that gentleman trust us? Or how do we have that gentleman love himself now? So the mentor that I have gotten, and I still have, that kept me going and keeping those doors open.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You go ahead. Go ahead.
What I'm hearing is, and do y'all hear me clear? There is no lagging, is it? Am I clear?
Mm-hmm.
I hear you clear.
What I'm hearing is faith, foundation, fellowship. Faith,
Yes.
foundation, and fellowship.
Yes.
And for those that are listening to us, because there are a lot of men and women who don't have faith, but they have the foundation of what family brought instilled within them. Then there's some that don't have a family, but their family is now faith. And then there are those that don't have family or faith, but they found them some fellowship, some strong people that undergirded them and came up. And so I'm glad that those were some elements that we can encourage our brothers and our sisters to grab hold of. But I want to hear just a increment, if you will, Jessica. What is the name of your book again?
Oh, the name of my book is Triumphant: One Woman's Journey from Prison to Purpose. It's available on Amazon. And I have a book website. That's jessicanroberts.com.
Okay, Jessica. Now tell us just the premise. Now, give us a brief snippet of the book. Why, how it came about.
Well, I had no idea I was going to write a book. After incarceration, my focus was rebuilding my life and making a better life for myself and my daughter. So I was facing a 10-year federal prison sentence due to my daughter's father. So out of 38, it was a 38-person indictment. I was person 38. Like I said, I was gainfully employed with a federal government company. I was 3 weeks away from graduating with my bachelor's degree at the time. And my upbringing and my foundation, I had never been to prison, never been to jail, never been in any trouble. So it was just the people that my daughter's father associated himself with that landed me to incarceration.
Okay. We have Rod Washington is watching. What's up, partner? And Oof Ellis. I like what Ellis said. Ellis said, this is so awesome. It proves that life is not over until God says it's over. Your testimonial, and he's referring to all three of you, your testimony should be very encouraging for returning citizens. Thank you for this program. My brother listens to this show in the prison that's in Jessup. So you have those that are in Jessup prison watching, those that are on Facebook, and those that are on YouTube. And so with that being stated, I want you to answer this question first, Dakota. I want you to encourage a returning citizen, well, not the returning citizen. Let's wait. There's still those that are on the inside. I want you to encourage that man or that woman that's still on the inside. Tell them how they can prepare themselves for the positions that all of us are finding ourselves in right now.
Right. Okay. So this I find important. So I think one of the best ways that I was able to prepare myself was my grandfather used to always tell me you need to treat humans like humans, right? So like I had to learn how to behave because being where I was at, my behavior was adapted to the surroundings I was in. And I can't behave like that in normal society, right? And as Patricia was saying earlier, as a re-entering citizen, I've got this magnet, this spotlight on top of me, and people are staring at what is he going to do next. Mm-hmm. And so my behavior out in public, and by that I mean just like how I talk to people, how I'm willing to treat somebody, it's just that my behavior had to change, right? And I wish it would have changed at a quicker rate, and I would have been more aware of that when I was sitting in there about to go home. I think that when the word respect gets thrown around right out here versus when the word respect gets thrown around in there, it's a little misconstrued as to what respect means, right? And so like for me, respect means treating myself and not just treating myself despite everyone else, right? So like other people have to be at the forefront of my mind. It's the golden rule, all right? So like treat other people the way I want to be treated. And I think for me, it's just really important to know that, like, you know, there is that spotlight, and how I act the second I get out, nobody's going to care if it's a learned behavior or not. They're going to care about what they're staring at.
Yeah.
So if I get out and I lash out and I get angry and I refuse to let you do this or let you do that, or you're not going to speak to me that way, that it's going to, you know, nobody's going to look at the fact that I just did 7 years in a place where I had to do that to survive, right? So I can't let you speak to me like that. And I'm not going to let you talk about my mother. And you can't speak to me about my family, and you're not going to talk to me about my wife or anything like that, right? In normal society, people ask about your wife, like, how's your wife doing today? And so like my reaction to these things has to change, right? And so I have to, like, I think the biggest thing for preparing to come home is knowing that behavior matters and people are staring at that, right? And that I shouldn't be judged based on my past, but I'm going to be. I think what Patricia said earlier and Jessica was saying is very important. People are going to look at me, and that's just, I can't change that. And if a snippet on the news comes up because of something another felon did, I'm going to get looked at. And if I'm out here screaming at people at gas stations and acting crazy and refusing to, speak in a normal manner to people and be, the man I know I can be, then they're going to look at me as the guy on the 30-second snippet on the news. And so I think behavior is like the biggest thing, and just how I'm going to behave. And because it's learned behavior, I think that's why it's so important, because it takes, I think it's 8 weeks to learn a behavior and a long time to unlearn a behavior. So it's just like reconditioning, retraining myself to, what I think the bottom line for me is, what does the word respect mean, right? And so like, I've got to treat myself and other people with actual respect, right? The way I want to be treated. And I want to be treated well. I want people to like me, and I want to be treated well. And if I want that, then I have to treat other people the exact same way. I have to treat them well. I can't be judgmental. I have to be very open-minded, and I've got to be understanding. And I think that coming out with that attitude, puts me on the path where people, just like what I went through, where that guy knows nothing about people reentering, right? And he was willing to give me the chance because of my behavior. I was willing to change. I wanted to try. And I just didn't want my life to be a repeat. I didn't want to go back through that door. And so it all started with behavior.
You used the word, behavior matters and respect. And one of our listeners, Tank, he says he loves that staying humble is the key to preparation when you come on the outside. What about you, Jessica? What are you doing right now practically that will help you to stay out? What have you done practically that has helped you to stay out and be where you are today?
Well, one thing is I had to own what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I had to stand in it, whether it was fair, unjust, or whether they did me wrong by landing me incarcerated. So I had to own it. I had to own my story. I can't be ashamed of it. So I had to let go the shame. I just had to change my mindset about a lot of things. So, you that's one of the things. And one of the things too is, like I said, I come from a 2-parent home. I had a solid foundation, but I ended up in a situation. So whether you come from a situation, a 2-parent home, a solid foundation, or I met a lot of people that come from, they were abused as kids. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your background. You can have anything you want. You can have goals, just like I have goals, just like I've accomplished my goals. It does not matter where you come from. You just have to adopt a mindset that you want to do better, and you want better, and you want more. So you can't, like Dakota mentioned, like he said, respect. If somebody asks about your wife or asks about your child or whatever, it's just, they're not asking about that, to disrespect you or anything like that. That's what people do. That's just, general conversation. So if you need help, if you need help with anything, you need counseling. Don't be ashamed to reach out and look into counseling. If you need a mentor, don't be ashamed to reach out and look for a mentor. I love learning. Although I'm at this point in my life, I have a great career. I'm going to write a second book. I sit on the reentries board. I mean, I love learning every day. I learn something new every day. Knowledge is power. So just like one of the callers, you said, humbleness. Like, humbleness will take you a long way. So just being humble and knowing that I'm not better than anyone else. We're all in this world. We're all striving, to do something and become better. So like I said, you just have to change your mindset. And you can't just hang on to the fact, well, my father wasn't there or my mother wasn't there. You gotta let that go. It's not where you come from, it's where you want to go. Keep your eyes on the prize. I mean, if you want to drive trucks, look into CDL training. Nothing is going to fall in your lap. I know a lot of people that don't have felonies or have a criminal history, they're having a hard time finding a job. So it's going to be double hard for us. So you just have to apply yourself. And don't be ashamed or scared to attend a meeting. I volunteered a lot. I volunteered, in homeless shelters. I volunteered just different things. That's things that you can add on your resume. That's things that show the world or shows people that are judging you
Giving
that,
back.
okay, this person has come home and they're doing things. They're doing something positive. They're giving back to the community. There's all sorts of things that you can get involved in.
Thank you, thank you. Now, I want to ask you this, Patricia, because
Mhm.
we've already talked about, the difficulties, and we'll be talking about a little more successes after a while. But before I even ask you that question, Brett Campbell, he's listening. He says, if only people already on the outside could act as you are saying, talking about Dakota and Jessica, respectful, humble. But I want to ask you this: what do you do, Patricia, when you have someone in your resource housing that is not producing? Some of those stories that may have made you want to revert back or stop or quit. Have you had those instances? And if so, what kept you pushing forward, not looking at everybody the way that individual was acting?
It was the participants, even when one instant relapse. You already know, you already took them to the side. Hey, let's get some intervention. And, I can't force anybody. And they relapse. And you have to, say, hey, your time is up. Okay. You go home and you think, how could you do better? But the participants, they always sit there and tell me, it's a mind thing, Miss Bennett. It has, it has to start with the mind first. It's not you. You gave us the platform. We didn't have anywhere to go when we got released from prison. If you close the door, what's going to happen to the rest of them that can't come home? The program is a unique program. We actually go inside the prisons, Metro prison, and start talking about housing, the supportive housing, the services that we offer. So you don't feel like, okay, when I get off the bus, where do I go? There's a prison release hotline that I created. So that's a line that you can call and you can get all your resources there. So for me, yes, you have those thoughts. Everybody has them, supportive housing provider. We all have them because we all have this passion. We want to serve. We want to help. We want to change. We want success stories, and they're there. So you know what? The one person might relapse. You got 50 that didn't do it. So do you go with that one and shut your door? No, because you got 50 stories over here that when you go home and you riding in your car, you smiling. This one got a CDL. One of my guys just went for his training for his CDL. He went for the class. I walked him. I mean, when I tell you I walked him, I walked beside him. He wanted to give up. He's been gone so long. The attitude is like, you know what? I want to give up. They didn't talk to me right. Like Dakota said, they didn't say something to me right. So I got to pull the prison thing on them. You're not in prison anymore. You're out in society. You have to be an asset. I make my guys volunteer. Just because you work, volunteer in the community. Give back so people don't have that one side about you. They wearing the blinders again. When they see the news, they can say, well, listen, I saw this guy and he told me he did time and he was volunteering. So do I believe everything that's happening on the news? No. There's positive stuff that's coming out. For me in the panel, I love what I do. I wouldn't change it. I wish there was more programs that would walk beside them. And it's okay. Everybody's not on the same wave. You get some guys that you really gotta, have the case manager walk with them. And then you got some guys who hit the ground running. And that's okay. Everybody's on different levels. but they are people first. We are not here to find out what happened to the crime. The crime is over. They are people that are needing assistance, and they are counting on these support housing providers to give it to them. And that's why we're going to still continue to stay here. Yes, we still ponder when you know this one. We got one. He's it's more success stories of getting them jobs and knowing that when they walk in the door and they leave, that they got a job making $17.50 an hour. That says something about the program, about the staff, about the caring. When you come in the bedroom, all stuff is laid out for you, your clothes, your hygiene products, everything is laid out for you. Your mindset got to change now. Your mind, and Julie, it's not going to take overnight. We got guys that's been gone for 27 years. I don't know what happened. I only can work outside the prison. It's like the military. You've been in the military, you got to debrief. And it might take years to debrief, but let us help you. Let us assist you.
Thank you, ma'am. I love that. Now, I need you, just like you passionately spoke to the community, I want Dakota and Jessica to passionately speak to those that are still on the inside. Because our brothers and sisters need encouragement. I know for me, I am intentional about remembering those that I've left behind, because there are many men and women that are ready right now, but because of legal issues cannot come out. But I am intentional about remembering them. I want you, Dakota, and you, Jessica, to remember those that we left behind and encourage them. Give them a word of encouragement. You start first, Jessica.
Oh, hey, so I'm here. I just want to say that your current situation is not your final destination. Never give up. I'm a success story. Dakota is a success story. Miss Bennett has spoken to you about several guys that are a success story. Stay in the fight. Start working on your mindset while you're behind, while you're behind the bars. Join if your facility or your location offers any type of courses, just to work on to help you, just positive thinking, anything like that. Take those courses. I don't care if your friends or your buddies in there say those things are corny or not. You have to prepare mentally for the outside, because like you said, we've learned to adopt and survive on the inside. But the real test is when you get on the outside. When you get on the outside and everybody's judging you. Behind the bars, we know everybody's there for a crime. Some the same, some different crimes. But when you get on the outside, that's the test. Stay in the fight, never give up. I don't care what the naysayers say. I don't care what nobody says. God has the final say so. I heard thousands of no's at several jobs, but I never gave up. Those no's, they were missing out on a great employee. So those no's prepared me for my yes. And you can't go to the next level until you have to start. I had to start at the bottom, but you're not going to go to the next level until you change your mindset. And God sees you learn your lesson, and God knows that, okay, he's ready for the next level. His mindset has changed. So he'll open the next door. And then once you pass that level, he'll open the next door. Because there's some monsters out there. So you got to be prepared at every level. Every level, there's a different devil. So just prepare mentally. Do what you can on the inside. Like I said, I took training, I took classes. So, like I said, I ran into situations, and I run into situations now. I may bend, but I'm never going to break. Don't give up. Stay in the fight.
Oh, I love that. Darren, I love that. Tank say, talk to me. I need you, Dakota. You go ahead and talk to us now.
All right. Thank you. I think first and foremost, it's important for me to say that regardless of the situation you find yourself in right now, right, you're not alone. And I know that loneliness and abandonment are something that can feel very dominant in your life right now. But you know, there's so much going on that we don't realize, right? And we don't realize that there are people like Patricia sitting out there setting up housing and doing all these things that like prove people care, right? So somebody cares. If anybody's listening, I want them to know that like we care. Somebody cares. There's somebody that gives a crap about you, and we don't have to know you to care. And it's very important that what Patricia's saying, like what you did doesn't matter, right? It's what are you going to do, right? Like that's you can get past what you've done because you've served your time. You're doing it right now. It's over with. It's no longer a thing unless you allow it to be a thing. But you are not, you're not alone. And there are lots of people who are going through the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't diminish what you're going through or enhance what you're going through, but it doesn't change the fact that there are people willing to help, right? And so like if you get in the mindset of what I'm going through will be over when I'm done, then you can start something new. For me, it's don't carry it with you, right? Like I can't carry that chain gang mentality with me everywhere. It's just got to go. I think the most important thing that I did for myself was be willing to change, be willing to be like an emotionally available person that people can talk to about their feelings and things that I didn't think were cool and okay, right? And be okay to talk with a counselor. I think that was mentioned earlier. I went and got counseling, right? I was shut off to the world. I refused it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be emotional. I wasn't going to let anybody see me. I thought that it was, weak. I've seen it as weakness. And it's just what it does is it blocks me off from opportunity. It's just, it becomes this barricade from opportunity and normal life. And I just think it's important that people know that they're not alone. There are services out here. There are people out here that feel exactly the way you have felt. And then there are people that want to help those that feel that way. Right. So it's not, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of an opportunity to be great. It's just not.
Margaret says, don't compare yourself to anyone. Their journey is theirs, and your journey is yours. No matter what, keep pushing. Thank you all for your stories. They are very encouraging to me. Thank you, Margaret. And Margaret is not the only one. You got Brett and Tank and there's so many that are pushing us and encouraging us and motivating us on. Well, right now, as we get ready to turn this corner, I want to begin to, we've already encouraged. Now it is time for us to empower. And that's what I want to do. I want to begin to empower those that are listening to us right now. First, let's start with you, Patricia. I want you to let other community people know that they can do what you're doing or they can support what you're doing. Tell the community how they can assist.
Good question. And that is my solution. What we're trying to do now is build our own affordable housing for people that are being released from the community. And I need the community and other people who have been released from the penal system to actually come aboard, help us, assist us. It is happening this year. It is time. We hear the voices. We hear the people are saying, I'm tired of just being denied of affordable housing. It's not even affordable housing, just plain housing. I mean, just plain old housing they cannot get. So it's taking us, the community, and I hope people can back us and realize it is a problem out here and we can't wait for other people to do it. We have to come together to do it. And that's where I'm at now. We did do the prison release hotline. That is working out. But what my guys are saying, because they have to stay here a little longer, we need permanent housing. And we have to do it. Yes. Come together. So that's where we're at, February 26th. If you want to come, it is at the Adamsville Park Library on Hamilton Road, and from 12 to 3. And I will put in the chat box so you can come. We can talk. We can start a committee. We can start building, because this year in the fall, Julius, I want to come back and say we got our housing. Okay? So
Ma'am,
thank
I
you.
like that. Yes, ma'am. Oh, no problem. What about you, Jessica? Speak to the listeners right now. You got returning citizens, relatives of returning citizens, and resources for returning citizens. Speak to them and tell them how they can help motivate them to do whatever you feel that needs to be done.
Well, one of the things I would say is, if you're a returning citizen and you're out right now, you're not incarcerated, contact Miss Bennett's hotline. She has tons of resources. Even if her house is full at the time, she has tons of resources that she can refer you out to. So that's what I did. I just look into organizations like Miss Bennett. Miss Bennett is one of a kind. Although her resources are for men, her services for men, I sit on her board, and she's a woman of compassion. So that's one of the things you need to notice, because like I tell Miss Bennett all the time, and like she said, the guys tell her, like, trust is a big factor. So Miss Bennett, if you find you a Miss Bennett, they're hard to come by, but she's there. And just the compassion. When a person shows you compassion, they're gonna walk beside you, walk the walk. That's your person right there. So just be careful who you link up with, because there are a lot of disappointing situations and people out here. So you just, like I say, try the spirit by the spirit. And you're interviewing them. If you're interested in their program, of course they're going to interview you, but interview them as well. What does the program have to offer? Can you share any of your success stories with me? But like I said earlier, just don't give up. Your current situation is not your final destination. I cannot say that enough. I'm a success story. Dakota's a success story. There's several success stories out there, and you can be one. But you got to have that determination. You got to have that corrected mindset, and anything is possible. The sky is not the limit. Stay encouraged and never give up.
All right. Before you go, Dakota, Brett says, let me read what Brett is saying. Brett says, a lack of knowledge about these programs leaves many coming out feeling abandoned and alone. And Tank says, how can we get this information into the prison system? Well, twofold. Number one, I encourage you, Patricia and Jessica, to reach out the prison or jail that's nearest you, and reach out for their counselor or their chaplains and let them know what information you have. I know you're already in Metro and in the Atlanta area, but let them know what you have going. And there are some resources here closer to home with Dakota and I. We have resource information. So before we go, I'm going to allow you to tell your contact information. But you go first, Dakota. Tell, what can we do? How can we help?
Say it again. How can we help?
How can we encourage communities to come alongside and help?
So, how can we encourage communities? So I think it is important to understand that a lot of people are coming home, because I was coming home with issues, right? So like I came home and I have underlying issues. And so I think the first thing is like to offer there, and there are facilities in Savannah, Georgia, we have, which I've talked about a couple times on here, a facility called Recovery Place Community Services, RCPS, and it is a mental health and drug and alcohol addiction treatment center. They have inpatient and outpatient programs, and it was important for me to treat the underlying issues. So without treating the addiction that I was suffering from, there would have been no success. There's no way to move forward if I'm suffering from the things from the past. So I think, and we have other services. We have a place located on Eisenhower Drive in Savannah, Georgia. It is called 24-Hour Club, and it is a recovery community-based club. It is 12-step program based. And once again, RCPS, I think it's just important that like this, people know that this mental health treatment and drug and alcohol addiction treatment is out there. It is easily available. It literally takes a walk up. You walk up, you fill out some paperwork, and it is a state funded program. They have lots of housing. So they provide lots of housing to people. And it is not get in here and your family pays for it, right? So it's not, you don't have to have money to begin with, right? It's a startup program. So you get in there, you get a housing, you get a job, and these people help, these people care. They have counselors. They get you medicine. They treat your any issues you have. Like, so they hooked me in with dentists and eye doctors, and I got contacts now, and I have my teeth fixed, and I was able to fix problems I was having with my bone. Am I still on here?
Yes.
You're still on.
And okay. And so I just think it's important that people, if you're located in Savannah, contact Recovery Place Community Services. It's one of the main resources we have down here. It is one of the only resources I know that is treating mental health disorders in the fashion that they are, right? So they're addressing the issues. If I get released from prison and go back to the exact same things, right, that I was doing before I went to prison, then it is likely to say that I will go back to prison. So I have to do something different, right? And so I think these, treating the issues that underlie a lot of these. I'm sure Patricia sees a lot of men that come in, and it's, there's issues, right? There's problems, and we're not addressing depression. We're not addressing mental health disorders. We're not addressing schizophrenia. We're not addressing drug addiction. We're not addressing alcoholism. We just want you to get a job and go to work and get a house. That's not reasonable. That's not reasonable. It's just not. These people don't have medication. They don't have medication. They don't have resources to pay for medication if they knew what they needed. They don't have a doctor to prescribe the medication. Even if you know what you need, you have to have a doctor to get it. And so that's what Recovery Place does. Recovery Place provides all that, right, at no cost. So they provide everything that you need, and then they provide links to other services. And then, like I said, once again, I think it's important that people know that there are 12-step programs out there. I don't like to call them self-help programs because they're fellowship groups. They're fellowships. And there's a lot of support in those communities, like a lot of support in those communities. And not from like businesses or anything like that. It's private individuals. It's people helping people. And so, yeah, that's all I've got to say. I think that's just important.
Okay, well, if you want, yes.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
I'm going to be short. One thing I noticed about the gentlemen, they don't know how to laugh. They feel like they have to just go to work all the time. There's no entertainment. There's no like connecting with yourself. And even when we have like, we'll do a dinner or we'll go out, it's like they're always on a radar. They're looking for something to happen, and they don't know how to laugh. When I see somebody laugh, it startles me for a minute because this person hasn't laughed in 6 months. So when they laugh, it's a deep laugh, and they have to know how to do self-care. You have to take care of yourself. It's not about trying to take care of everybody else when you wasn't there. Take care of you. Find out what you like today. Do you like strawberries or just Julia said you like strawberries, but you really like peaches? I want you to find out who you are. And what's the description of freedom? What does that mean to you? If you wrote a book, what would be the title? If you wrote a book, what would be the title? It takes a village to inspire the forgotten ones. And my last one, you can imprison a man, but not his ideas. So those are the
Thank you,
things
ma'am.
I go inside when I go inside the prison. I want you to go deep in yourself. Nobody
I
wakes up
want
and said, I'm going to be a robber.
I
Something
want to give them
happened.
your information before we go. For
Yes.
Patricia, it is empowering men and women 10 at gmail.com. Empowering men and women 10 at gmail.com. And you can
Yes.
also reach out to me at Julius, Julius, at Deep Center, DeepCenter.org. Julius at deepcenter.org. I want you to know I am so excited that you have come on and just been able to bless each of our listeners. You have all did a wonderful job. I appreciate you. Your message has gotten across. Thank you again for joining us. This is not the last time. We would love to have each of you back on just to give us some follow-up of what's going on in your ministries, in your book, in your lives, and in your organizations. Thank you. And also thank you to our listeners. I appreciate all of you that have come on. You can make a difference in the lives of returning citizens. Just come on every Friday. Incarceration to Incorporation. As we change the narrative, Julius always says it this way: a debt paid is no longer a debt. And we may have started out wrong, but now we are finishing strong. I appreciate you all. Love you and good night.
Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Good night.